Literary theory, partition literature, and research methodology. Short questions with answers. First question: what is the literal meaning of the term research? The term research denotes a systematic and critical investigation in the field of knowledge to establish facts or principles. It is a sort of revision of established laws and theories in the light of discovery of new facts. R. Rational way of thinking. E. Expert and exhaustive treatment. S. Search for solution. E. Exactness. A. Analysis of data. R. Relationship of facts. C. Careful observation. H. Honestly and hard work. Question 2. What are the chief features of research? The term research denotes a systematic and critical investigation in the field of knowledge to establish facts or principles. In order to pursue research, it is absolutely necessary to have a research question or a topic because we can decide the research design. We can judge the depth of any research by its objectives. A research problem is feasible only when it has utility and relevance. Question 3. What are the various types of research? There are the two types of research, primary and secondary. In other ways, it is of three types: basic research, applied research, and action research. Basic research, it is designed to add to an organized body of scientific knowledge and does not necessarily produce results of immediate practical value. Applied research, it is undertaken to solve immediate, specific, and practical problems. This scientific method of study and research is used in business, medicine, and education in order to find solutions that may improve health, solve scientific problems, or develop new technology. Action research, it is process of systematic reflection, inquiry, and action carried out by individuals about their own practice. Question 4. Define action research. What are the chief features of action research? Action research is a spot research. It involves application of scientific method to classroom problems. The chief features of action research are the following. 1. It aims at studying the problem scientifically in order to guide, correct, and evaluate educational practices. 2. In-action research projects are carried out in a single classroom by a single teacher or by all teachers in a school or an educational institute. 3. It is flexible. 4. It does not aim at generalizing solutions and suggestions. Fifth, action research is self-evaluative. Objectives of action research: to improve the working conditions of school plan, to develop scientific attitude among teachers, to promote collaborative working among teachers and students for solving their problems, to bring excellence in school working, to make the school system effective for generating an conducive environment to learning. Enumerate the objectives of literary research. The chief objectives of literary research include: 1. To acquire and advance knowledge and abilities in undertaking intensive study of the original text of select literary works. Second, to apply the concerned theoretical framework to the select literary works. 3. To analyze and discuss literary works concerned and have a clear perceptions of various research methods. Fourth, to suggest implications for further studies and develop new theories. Question 6. Define research problems. State the features of research problems. A research problem can be defined as a statement about the area of interest, a condition that required to be improved, difficulty that is to be eradicated, or any disquieting question existing in the domain of scholarly literature. In theory in practice that points to be solved. A research problem is feasible only when it has the following characteristics. 1. It has utility and relevance. 2. It is new and adds something to knowledge society. 3. It is researchable. 7. Define research objectives. We can judge the depth of any research by its objectives. Research objectives concisely demonstrate what we are trying to achieve through the research. The chief objective of literary research consists acquiring an advanced knowledge and abilities in undertaking intensive study of the original text. Question 8. What are the characteristics of interval data? Interval data is measured using an interval scale, which not only shows the order and direction but also shows the exact difference in the value. For example, the markings on the thermometer or a ruler are equidistant. In simpler words, they measure the same distance between the two markings. The distances between each value on interval data is equal. For example, the difference between 10 centimeters and 20 centimeters is the same as 20 centimeters and 30 centimeters. In interval data, one can add or subtract values but cannot divide or multiply. Almost all statistical analyses are applicable when calculating interval data, mean, mode, median, etc. Absolute zero point is arbitrary, which means a variable can be measured even if it has a negative value, like temperature can be minus 10 below zero, but height cannot be below zero. Question 9. Define research design. In the main body of the research report, a conceptual framework can be understood as a research design that we require before research. Anyone who has studied the research methodology can prepare the research design skillfully. Question 10. How important is ethics in research? Research that involves human subjects or participants raise unique and complex ethical, legal, social, and political issues. It refers to a diverse set of values, norms, and institutional regulations that help constitute and regulate scientific activity. The following are the objectives of research ethics: to protect human participants, to ensure that research is conducted in a way that serves interest of individuals, group, and society as a whole, to examine specific research activities and projects for their ethical soundness, looking at issues such as the management of risk, projection of confidentiality, and the process of informed consent. Question 11. What is the etymological origin of the word plagiarus? In the first century, the use of Latin word plagiarus literally kidnapper to denote stealing someone else's work was by the Roman poet Martial, who complained that another poet had kidnapped his verses. Plagiary, a derivative of plagiarus, was introduced into English in 1601 by dramatist Ben Jonson to describe someone guilty of literary theft. The right from plagiarism was introduced into English around 1620. The Latin plagiarus, kidnapper, and plagium, kidnapping, has a root plager, snare, net, based on the Indo-European root plaque that means to weave. What is the meaning of false assumption of authorship? Plagiarism is defined as the false assumption of authorship. The wrongful act of taking the product of another person's mind and presenting it as one's own. Consequences for committing plagiarism range from failing the assignment to expulsion from schools. To avoid plagiarism at all cost. To avoid plagiarism, we should follow the standards set by the MLA of citing our sources both in text and on the works cited page. In text citations, follow a certain format as well. To cite a source of either a direct quote, use the author's last name and page number enclosed in parentheses like the example at the end of this sentence. Turner 12. Always make sure the period goes on the outside of the parentheses. And remember, no quote can stand alone. It must be blended or attributed, and you need to explain the quote after stating it. You may also cite sources in the paper by using the author's last name in the sentence, but still citing the page numbers at the end in parentheses. Question 13. What is the meaning of documentation in the context of research? Documentation refers to the variety of written, audio, and visual artifacts that exist within natural, no laboratory context before a research study is initiated. The literal meaning of bibliography is a complete or selective list of works compiled upon some common principle, as authorship, subject, place of publication, or printer, or a list of source materials that are used or consulted in the preparation of a work or that are referred to in the text. Question 14. What is the most widely used referencing style in humanities? MLA citation style is most frequently used in the humanities if reference has been made to a work opera citato. A new reference is to be made. Ebed may be used if intervening reference has been made to different works. Op op.c. Must be used. The name of the author must precede. Question 15. What is the literal meaning of bibliography? The literal meaning of bibliography is a complete or selective list of works compiled upon some common principle, as authorship, subject, place of publication, or printer, or a list of source materials that are used or consulted in the preparation of a work or that are referred to in the text. The term bibliography denotes an orderly list of resources on a particular subject. A bibliography provides the full reference information for all the sources which we consult in preparing a particular project. The purpose of a bibliography is to allow the reader to trace the sources used. Question 16. What is the importance of references in research? At the end of the report, the researcher must include the references he or she used during writing the article or thesis. So, reference stands for the end matter. Various sources like internet sites, journal, magazines, books, theses, etc. can be included in this section. Question 17. What is the role of interview in research? The interview is good way to gather first-hand information on a research subject. The personal interview, a pre-arranged meeting with a person in which particular questions are asked, is of great significance. Question 18. What is the meaning of hypothesis testing in research? The literal meaning of hypothesis is a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further inquiry. After analyzing the data, the researcher is in a position to test the hypothesis, if any, he had formulated earlier. Do the facts support the hypothesis or they happen to be contrary? This is the usual question which should be answered at the time of testing hypothesis. Various tests such as chi-square test, t-test, f-test have been developed by statisticians for the purpose. The hypothesis may be tested through the use of one or more of such tests depending upon the nature and object of research inquiry. Hypothesis testing will result in either accepting the hypothesis or in rejecting it. If the researcher had no hypothesis to start with, generational generalizations established on the basis of data may be stated as hypotheses to be tested by subsequent researches in times to come. Question 19. Define qualitative research design. In the qualitative research, we use an inductive methodology that starts from particular to general. In other words, we study society from the bottom, then move upward to make theories. Qualitative research is used to understand how people experience the world. While there are many approaches to qualitative research, they tend to be flexible and focus on retaining rich meaning when interpreting data. Question 20. Define null hypothesis in research. A statistical hypothesis is an assumption made about some parameters, that is, about a statistical measure of population. The commonly used method of stating statistical hypothesis in research, known as null hypothesis (HO). It states that there is no significant difference or relationship between two or more parameters. A null hypothesis is a type of conjecture used in statistics that proposes that there is no difference between certain characteristics of a population or data generating process. The alternative hypothesis proposes that there is a difference. Hypothesis testing provides a method to reject a null hypothesis within a certain confidence level. Question 21. How will you prepare an index on your thesis? At the end of the report, an index should invariably be given, the value of which lies in the fact that it acts as a good guide to the reader. Index may be prepared both as subject index and as author index. The former gives the names of the subject topics or concepts along with the number of pages on which they have appeared or discussed in the report, whereas the letter gives a similar information regarding the names of authors. The index should always be arranged alphabetically. Some people prefer to prepare only one index common for names of authors, subject topics, concepts, and the like ones. Question 22. Define research dissertation. And research dissertation is another word for a thesis. The format of thesis writing is similar to that of a research. Typically, a dissertation allows students present their findings in response to a question or proposition that they choose themselves. The aim of the project is to test the independent research skills students have acquired during their time at university, with the assessment used to help determine their final grade. Although there is usually some guidance from our teachers and tutors. The dissertation project is largely independent. Question 23. What degree program would you write a dissertation or thesis for? As a master's student, you will be required to take part in a dissertation defense. The general idea of this is to ensure you have understood your chosen topic and have learned the skills to perform extensive research on a subject. These usually involve giving a 5 to 10-minute presentation, followed by a round of questions and answers with an internal examiner lasting up to 30 minutes. The exact process may vary depending on the educational institution. A thesis defense or viva, however, requires a PhD student to present substantial information and supporting evidence to demonstrate how their research has built on previous work to contribute new information to the subject. For this reason, a viva to earn a doctorate degree can often last several hours.